Chapter 1891. Everyone floated up into the air. Less than 2 seconds after they jumped onto the trees, they felt the trees shaking and falling down one by one. Aber and Emolien held hands and jumped to a relatively empty and safe area. Shurchen, Little Tai Sui, the Luo brothers, and the others had also jumped up and gathered around Aber and Emolien. Everyone frowned slightly and looked down at the turbulent mountain range. Mata said in confusion, "How could this be? Mount Dai Zong didn't look so fragile. Could a random tremor flatten the entire mountain? Everyone, be careful. The situation is not good." The leader of UXIN's team looked at the constantly shaking earth with a solemn expression. After leading the students into the air, he quickly said, "Let's go down the mountain to avoid the tremors first. Maybe this really wasn't caused by humans. Maybe the earth dragon turned over? Their luck was really bad." Woof, 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 woof. 3 small white hounds with pure white fur suddenly rushed out of the forest. Each of them was only the length of a forearm. They were very small and lively as they scurried among the crooked trees. One of the hounds suddenly pounced at UXIN's feet, who was suspended in the air. "Go away." UXIN wouldn't let them pounce on her. She directly kicked the hound away. Woof. The hound whimpered and rolled on the ground after being kicked by UXIN. Coincidentally, a towering tree tilted down and was about to smash through the hound's intestines. The other 2 hounds pounced over and desperately pushed the previous one away. The 3 hounds rolled on the ground for several meters. They whimpered and kicked their legs to get up. They nimbly avoided the fallen tree and pounced in the direction of the people. Woof, 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 woof. The 3 hounds cleverly dodged UXIN, who was a tough nut to crack, and rushed toward Aber's group. Woof, woof, woof. Miss Chow was speechless. Could it be that some owner brought 3 hounds up the mountain to hunt and suddenly encountered an earthquake and were forced to separate? Woof, woof, woof. The puppy raised its head and circled around the fallen tree. It looked up at the people of Aber who were hanging above with pleading eyes. Qi Xuanxuan's heart immediately burst with love. She stretched out her hands and shouted, "Come, come, come into Big Sister's arms." Woof, woof, woof. The puppy jumped under Aber and Emolien and barked at Aber. Qi Xianxian, F***CK, was she being completely ignored? Little Fatty could not help but laugh out loud. He turned to look at Qi Xianxian sympathetically and said, "Even the dogs know that you're a glutton. You only like them because they look delicious." Qi Xianxian was speechless. Woof woof. Woof woof woof. The 3 puppies gathered around Aber's feet and started barking pitifully again. Aber was speechless as he looked down at them. His gaze met everyone's gaze. Qi Xianxian nodded her chin at her. Aber. What did she need 3 puppies for? Not only did they not know how to work, but she also had to take care of them. Woof. The 3 puppies circled around below. From time to time, they would raise their little heads and jump around, barking pitifully at Aber. Aber looked at Qi Xuanxuan's eager gaze and reluctantly raised his hand. A wooden vine shot out from his hand and wrapped around the 3 puppies. Chapter 1892. Woof 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 woof. The 3 puppies leaped into Aber's arms and shoulders. One of them even tried to pounce on her face, but she caught it with a wave of her hand. Everyone's lips twitched upon seeing this. Ma Ta was just about to tease her when they suddenly heard a massive boom in the distance. This time, everyone stood in the air and looked into the distance. Immediately, they saw a huge tail covered in armor appear on the top of a mountain in the distance. It rolled and swept across a mountain peak. "Holy F***CK, what's that?" Ma Ta exclaimed. "It can't really be some kind of mutant dragon, right?" UXIN and the other Sunlight Academy students looked at each other and saw a hint of panic in each other's eyes. "Instructor, what do we do now?" He Wei asked anxiously. "Let's get down the mountain first." But how could they make it in time? Everyone hovering in the air felt a burst of gravel beneath their feet. A fissure opened up in the mountain, and a powerful suction force erupted from deep underground. Ah! Instructor! Uxian lost her footing and was immediately dragged down by the suction force with a pale face. Only then did everyone realize that there was a massive hole in the mountain path beneath their feet. Uxian had been sucked into that hole. Emolien reached out and hurriedly hugged Arba. She was just about to rise into the air. Arba suddenly patted Emolien's arm. Little Water told me that it sensed a profound spirit jade mine down there. Emolien faltered. At this moment, the suction force was already sweeping toward them. Little Tai Sui's expression darkened. It was just about to reach out to control the suction force when Emolien's indifferent voice sounded in its ears. Go down. Xian, be careful, everyone. Xiao Mu exhorted, but Crown Prince Emo had already jumped into the hole with her in his arms. Without Emolien, He Chan, and Little Tai Sui to control the suction force, no one else was able to withstand it. They were all dragged down by the suction force. As soon as they entered that hole, the sounds of other people wailing and groaning could be heard everywhere. Other than Emolien, Little Tai Sui, and the others who jumped into this hole of their own accord, the others were all pulled in by the suction force. All of them were terribly flustered and felt like they were rolling down, as if they were going to roll into the depths of the Earth's core. Holy *T. Were they going to die? Why did it feel like they couldn't get up even with their spiritual power? That suction force was simply too strong. Everything was pitch black. No one knew where they had rolled to. They just struggled there, trying harder, trying to keep themselves afloat. However, it was to no avail. Following the uneven tunnel in the dark cave, the group tumbled all the way down. It wasn't until they heard Uxian scream from afar that everyone's heart tightened slightly. They silently chanted Amitba several times, guessing that they were about to reach the bottom. Bang! 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 Everyone rolled all the way down, eventually forming a pile of human pyramid. Emolien held onto Arbor and steadied herself. He Chen, Little Tai Sui, and the others moved to the side of the tunnel. Miss Chow heard Xuan's cries coming from afar. She hurriedly stretched out her small hand and pulled Xian along. I-oh. Little Fatty, who had rolled over from behind, bumped into Qi Xuan's back. The two of them lost their balance and rolled on the ground, hugging each other. Duan Mu Qing then flew down and stood firmly next to Emolien. Chapter 1893. Ma Ta, Lu Yu, and the others stopped in their tracks and didn't get into a fight with Uxian's group. Holy shit, this place is too dark. The little fatty couldn't help but cry out. Tutor, stop playing. Hurry up and unseal our spiritual senses. We can't use our inner worlds here, I can't even take out a torch. The little fatty paused for a moment, then started shouting again. That's right. Tutor, although training is very important, if you kill us, you won't be able to find a group of naive and simple students like us. Mata also started shouting. There was no other reason. After falling down, almost everyone's first reaction was to take out some lighting tools from their inner worlds. The result could be imagined. Little Fatty Ma Ta thought of the tutor's bad natures and naturally suspected Tutor Zhou and the others. However, in the darkness, Zhou Donjin's expression was very ugly. All of you try and see if anyone can open their inner worlds. Zhou Danjin said in a low voice. Hearing this, everyone's heart sank and they hurriedly used their spiritual senses or divine senses to open the door to their inner worlds. The result was obvious. No one was able to open their inner worlds. Holy shit, it can't be, right? Tutor Zhou, stop playing, hurry up and unseal us. The little fatty cried out. F***ck off. Zhou Donjin's face turned even darker from anger. He wasn't an idiot. He clearly knew that the current situation was disadvantageous to his side, so why would he seal the student's spiritual senses? Tutor, you really didn't do anything? Qi Xian cried out. No way. Then what about you? Tutor Wei laughed bitterly. Our spiritual senses are like clay oxen thrown into the sea. there's no trace at all. A faint light shone in the crowd. The little girl was holding a luminous pearl in her hand and was leaning against Prince Mo's chest. Her expression was unclear as she scanned the tutors. Zhou Danjin looked at the little girl and couldn't help but feel a headache. The look in his eyes clearly showed that he was suspicious. Students. Zhou Danjin sighed. You've really misunderstood me. If it was the teacher who sealed your spiritual sense, how could he seal himself as well? Lotus. Arba looked up at Prince Mo. Prince Mo nodded. As soon as I entered this place, I discovered that there should be something here that blocks spiritual sense and divine sense. Arba looked at the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal and the others. Little Tai Sui and the others all shook their heads with dark expressions. My divine sense has been blocked. What should we do? What should we do? Will we die of hunger and thirst in this place? A student from the Sunlight Academy couldn't help but scream. With her shout, everyone's emotions fluctuated. They all asked their mentors what they should do now. Arba was rather bored. He took out a carrot from his small bag and took a bite. Crack. Everyone's eyes focused on the carrot in her hand. Arba looked at them in shock. Continue the discussion. Don't mind me. She was just having lunch, and it was almost time for dinner. Woof, woof, woof. The 3 little white hounds lying on her head and shoulders barked twice. Arba took out a basin and a bottle of goat's milk from his bag. He poured half of it into the basin, pulled the 3 little hounds down, and urged them to drink it. It's useless. It's a waste of food, Arba muttered. Yu Xian scowled. Then why are you giving it to them? Chapter 1894. He knew it was a waste, yet he continued to waste it. This was unforgivable. In such an environment, no one knew when they would be able to get out. Everyone's inner worlds could not be opened. Food was naturally very important. Yet Xiao Mu, this D***man lass, actually casually poured out so much goat's milk to feed 3 useless puppies? Yu Xian was not the only one complaining in her heart. Most of the people from the Sunlight Academy were also very angry. They all looked at Arba strangely. Crunch. The crispy carrots from Paradise Planet were delicious and could replenish one's energy. It was refreshing and relieving one's boredom. Jojo. Qi Xian, the foodie, could not stand it. She looked at Arba anxiously. Arba hurriedly took out 2 carrots from his bag and gave them to Xian. The 2 of them ignored everything else and went to the side to eat. Jojo, how long will our food last? Qi Xian could not bear hunger. She had to confirm one thing. She would not run out of food in the next few days. If she ran out of food, she would endure it and hide these 2 carrots first. Arba looked at her speechlessly for a while. Qi Xian was very nervous. Her little face was slightly serious. Is it not enough at all? Arba, did you forget that I gave you storage talismans? Not to mention that her Paradise Planet was completely unaffected by spiritual sense, and she could enter and leave as she pleased, even if everyone's spiritual sense and divine sense were blocked. Didn't she give them storage talismans before? How could storage talismans be affected? Qi Xuan's eyes lit up as if they were lit up by flames. She jumped up and laughed loudly. That's right. I'm so stupid. How could I forget about that? Then I'll eat. Qi Xian, who realized that she had a lot of food and did not have to worry about food, happily picked up 2 carrots and took a bite, eating happily. Yu Xian and the other students from the Sunlight Academy looked at the 2 of them with gloomy expressions. He Wei bit his lips and turned to look at the pitch-black tunnel. Senior Sister Yu Xin, what do we do now? If only Yu Xin knew what to do. Other than Yu Xian's Sunlight Academy's team, the unlucky Hippo team was also among the teams that had fallen. The other 2 teams that they had encountered at the assembly point were Hades Prefecture's Honghu Academy and Yuchuan Prefecture's Frostgale Academy. These 2 academies were not much weaker than the Sunlight Academy. They could be said to be the signature academies of the Nether River Prefecture and Yuchuan Prefecture. The leaders of the 2 teams were much stronger than the leader of the Hippo team, Sha Gua. While the 5 members of the Hippo team were running around in circles, the 2 teams from Yunchuan Prefecture and Nether River Prefecture were already looking for a way out. The place where we came down is blocked by sand and rocks. The suction force in this place is so strong that it's impossible to jump out. The few of them analyzed the situation in front of them and looked at each other with a solemn expression. The 2 mentors, Zhou Danjin and Wei Wei, walked to Emolien and the others and said in a low voice, "It seems that we can only continue forward." Mata's jaw almost dropped. Walk forward? But don't you feel that the further we go, the deeper we go? Shouldn't they be going up now? Do you have a way to go up? Lu Yu looked at him exasperatedly. Listen to the mentors. Maybe we can find a way out faster if we continue forward. He had been forced to work overtime at the last minute. The rest of the day would be 9:30. Chapter 1895. Mata shrugged. His expression was not optimistic. To be honest, walking in such a place required a lot of courage. It was all dark in front of them and behind them. Fortunately, there were many of them, so they could walk in a group. At least they had company. After Aber and Qi Xianxian finished the carrots in their hands, everyone had finished their discussion. The 2 young ladies went up and asked in unison, "Where are we going?" The young ladies were holding luminous pearls in their hands. They could clearly see the teacher's toothache expressions. Aber did not care. There were teachers and husbands here, and so many people who were more powerful than her. She could just follow them and pick up the leftovers. There was no need for her to use her brain. Qi Xianxian was indeed Aber's best friend. The 2 of them had the same thoughts. Anyway, even if the sky fell, there were people with higher cultivation levels to hold it up. Jojo, you have a luminous pearl. Why don't you lead the team? Aber immediately refused. She threw the luminous pearl in her hands to Teacher Zhou. Teacher, lead the team. Everyone, Teacher Wei Wei, do you want a luminous pearl? It seemed that she had more than 1 luminous pearl in her bag. The teachers all turned their heads away. They did not want to bother with this little girl. How many luminous pearls did she need? Aber casually grabbed a handful from the mountains of gold and jewels. She might have more than 10. Although her inner world was sealed, Aber had taken out many luminous pearls and jewels. It's mainly for fun. You say it's useful, but it's really not that useful. Teacher Wei Wei, here you go. Teacher Hu, here you go. Aber really gave each of the teachers a luminous pearl. Then, she said to them, "This is the legendary luminous pearl of the Southern Sea. It has good lighting. Remember to return it to me after you use it." Everyone, ha 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 ha. Looking at the 5 teachers' dumbfounded faces, the little fatty actually laughed out loud. His loud laughter spread through the dark tunnel, causing people's spirits to rise slightly. His laughter made the others laugh as well. In return, the 5 teachers glared at them sternly. A bunch of bastards. They were always cheating their teachers. No, cheating their teachers. Under Wei Wei and Zhou Dongjin's lead, Duanmu Qing, Lu Yu, and the others quickly followed. Aber and Emolien walked in the middle of the group. Behind them were Little Tai Sui, Everlasting Blade, and the others. Little Fatty and Qi Xianxian were at the back of the group. When they started walking, the Sunlight Academy's leader followed them with the 12 students. What kind of top-notch academy would send so many instructors to protect the students? What a joke. This was the first time he had seen an academy with more instructors than students. While this person was muttering in his heart, he didn't know that from top to bottom, there were only these 8 student treasures. There wasn't any more. Xianxian, I'm thirsty. If I ask Jojo for some water, will her husband hit me? Why would her husband hit you? Qi Xianxian looked at the submissive little fatty in amusement. Don't be a coward. Go. Forget it. I'll go find Mata and ask him to get me some water. Qi Xianxian looked at the terrified little fatty and grinned. Suddenly, she smiled and said, "Fatty, let me tell you something that will make you happy." Go ahead. Actually, the storage talismans Jojo gave us can be used here. There should be a lot of peaches in there. Chapter 1896. Little Fatty Ko Hongwen's eyes lit up as if his short-circuited nerves had been reconnected. Damn, how could I have forgotten about the storage talisman? Usually, everyone used their inner worlds, so they did not really need the storage talisman. Most importantly, Jojo had already reminded them not to put all the storage talismans in their inner worlds. They had to keep at least one or two of them on their person. Now, it was finally put to good use. The little fatty happily took out the storage talisman from his waist pocket and happily took out 2 peaches. He stuffed one into Xian Xian's hand and held the other for himself. He chuckled and said, "Here you go." Of course, Qi Xian Xian would not stand on ceremony with little fatty. She took 1 peach each and munched on it as she walked. Dao Wuji, who was walking in front of them, turned around to take a look. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Where did you get the peaches?" Little fatty looked at Dao Wuji sincerely. "When we left the academy, we brought a few with us. Sigh, now it's our lifesaver." Dao Wuji looked fatty up and down suspiciously. Just now, he had seen this kid drooping his head and looking listless. But now, he was in good spirits. Fairy Ginkgo turned around and winked at little fatty. "Little fatty bro, do you still have any more peaches? If you do, give big sister one." That wink was really. Qi Xian Xian immediately pulled little fatty behind her and looked at Fairy Ginkgo warily. She stretched out her little finger and pointed in Fairy Ginkgo's direction. "Hey, I'm telling you, look at people properly. Don't blink like you're having a cramp." Dao Wuji couldn't help but laugh out loud. Fairy Ginkgo's lips trembled and she rolled her eyes at Qi Xian Xian. "Little brat, what do you know? This is called flirting. Do you know? Do you have any peaches? Big sister is thirsty too." Really, it felt like she was playing the lute to a cow. She actually said that her eyes were having a cramp. "You're the one having a cramp. Your whole family has a cramp." Qi Xian Xian took out 2 peaches from her storage talisman and gave one to Fairy Ginkgo and Fairy Peony. Dao Wuji was stunned. Storage talisman. Hey, little brat, you have a storage talisman. You haven't seen the world. Don't make a fuss. Qi Xian Xian kept the storage talisman with a smug look on her face. Facing Dao Wuji's incredulous gaze, Xian Xian raised her head and lifted her chin. "That's all?" Dao Wuji's eyes widened. "You only gave it to the 2 of them. What about me? You're a man with a high cultivation." He had only left for a short while and he was already asking for food and drinks like a woman. "Don't you feel ashamed?" Qi Xian Xian roared. Her voice was so loud that everyone could hear her. Little Tai Sui sneered speechlessly. "Dao Wuji, you're really disliked wherever you go. Attention, everyone." Instructor Zhou, who was right in front of them, suddenly stopped in his tracks. Everyone in the dark tunnel also stopped in their tracks. For a moment, most of their nerves tensed up. "It's a steep slope below. Do you want to go down? And it's a damn steep slope?" If this continued, he would really slide into the depths of the Earth's core. "Down. Don't be a coward. If you're afraid, let me lead the way for you." As he spoke, his figure flashed and dashed forward. Then, with a cry of surprise, a human figure disappeared in front of everyone just like that. "I already told you it's a steep slope." He actually flew over and fell down. Wasn't he courting death? See you tomorrow at 12:30. Chapter 1897. Dao Wuji felt like his balls were hurting. How could he have known that Instructor Zhou's speech was so vague? Was this even King steep slope? This was basically a vertical cliff, okay? Saber Wuji gathered strength in his dantian, his left foot bouncing on his right foot as he raised his qi. He thought that he would be able to fly into the sky, but to his surprise, he fell deeper into the ground at an even faster speed. Wah! Wah wah wah! A series of shouts came from behind him, accompanied by the rustling sound of people tumbling down. Everyone was rolling deeper into the ground at a strange speed. Yu Xian's expression changed drastically. Everyone was shocked to find that their bodies seemed to be wrapped in invisible air currents, and they were being dragged down by a powerful force. F***ck. A crack appeared in the depths of Dao Wuji's eyes. Am I going to die here today? Ah! Splash! Dao Wuji was the first to fall into the ice-cold water. Immediately afterward, little Tai Sui fell into the water, and its toes touched the surface of the water, barely managing to stabilize itself. He saw a strange fish with jagged teeth jump out of the water, and with a whistling sound, it tried to bite the back of his foot. Bam! Little Tai Sui made a prompt decision and kicked the strange fish's head. With a loud thump, the strange fish was kicked into the icy water by little Tai Sui. Ah! Ah! In the following period of time, all of the team members fell into the water in a single file. One after another, the water splashed into their eyes, making them unable to open their eyes. Holy F***ck. Mata pulled out a spear and jabbed it into the mouth of the strange fish that was swimming over to bite him. After a shriek, the strange fish fell into the water, and a thick stench of blood spread out. The water in the distance rippled, and it seemed that even more strange fish were gathering toward the team. Ah! Senior brother Su Liang! Senior brother Su Liang! Yu Xian screamed in horror. Everyone struggled in the pool with all their might and began to fight with the strange fish that were gathering toward them. Little Tai Sui's eyes were cold. He raised his hand, and an incomparably powerful earth spirit barrier fell, covering everyone around him. Qi Xianxian raised her head, but before she could even make a sound, she saw a strange fish with its mouth wide open, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. With a loud boom, it crashed into the earth spirit barrier in front of her. Through the thick earth spiritual barrier, Qi Xianxian could see that the strange fish's eyes were bulging. Its fangs bit down on the exterior of the earth spirit shield with a gotcha sound. Then, it fell into the water with a blood-curdling screech. Oh my God! Qi Xianxian exclaimed in a low voice. This strange fish is too ugly. Everyone, be careful. Zhou Danjin had a fierce expression on his face as he controlled a water ball in his hand and smashed it on the head of a strange fish that was slithering over at a high speed. Tutor, tutor, what should we do now? He Wei cried out in alarm. She looked left and right, and all she could see was boundless black water. This underground pool seemed to have no end in sight. Soaking in the cold water, one's senses were exceptionally cold. At this moment, Arbor was lying on Emolien's back. She hugged his neck and shouted, "Forward, forward!" He Chen turned around and glanced at her. "What's ahead? Hurry, hurry!" Arbor couldn't be bothered to care about how others were screaming. She just kept ordering her husband around. "Emolien, baby, can you not pull your husband's hair when you're agitated?" Chapter 1898. Arbor hurriedly smoothed her husband's wet hair. She lowered her head and whispered in his ear. Little Shui said that the black spirit jade mine is right in front. Let's hurry over. Her little tree was still waiting for the black spirit jade to prolong his life. This was not a joke. Got it. Emolien nodded helplessly. He carried his wife and quickly moved forward. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal followed beside them. He also slid forward for a while. He asked curiously in a low voice, "What's in front?" Arbor turned to look at the group of people they had left far behind. She waved at He Chen and said, "Just now, I calculated with my fingers that there's a black spirit jade mine here." The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's eyes twitched. He looked at her helplessly and said, "Little thing, do you think I'll believe you just because you say that?" "Umph." Arbor turned her head and faced him with the back of her head. Emolien glared at him and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up." "Where is it?" He Chen was helpless. Under the water? The three of them moved forward quietly. What was strange was that those strange fish, who knew if they bullied the weak and feared the strong, actually didn't approach the three of them. Instead, They all gathered around Uxin and the others. Chen looked back and saw that the people from the Sunlight Academy were frantically dealing with those strange fish. He could not help but feel curious. Jojo, did you do something? Why did those strange fish like the people from the Sunlight Academy so much? Look at Frost Wind Academy and Honghu Academy. They were not as loved by the strange fish as they were. Even the extremely poor Hippo Academy was slightly better off than the Sunlight Academy. Arbor snorted. He subconsciously grabbed Emolien's long hair. Do I look like someone who would do such a silly thing? Yes. Chen nodded inwardly, but shook his head outwardly. You don't look like someone like that. What the heck, he did not mean what he said. If he said that he looked like someone, he was sure that the little thing would not even show him the back of her head. Arbor looked back at him expressionlessly and nodded in satisfaction. That's right. At least you have good taste. Ma Shurchen silently turned to look at Emolien. Do you know that your wife is so narcissistic? Emolien. Although the three of them were talking, it did not affect their movements. Paddling to the front of a row of walls, Emolien reached out and touched the cold and protruding relief wall. Her eyes flashed slightly. It seems that this is an underground mausoleum. Because of the earthquake, they actually slid all the way into the Earth Mausoleum. He didn't know whose mausoleum it was, but the mausoleum had the entire Dissect Mountain as its mausoleum. Arbor nodded. Let's see if there's an entrance. The three of them wandered along the relief wall for a while. Arbor's little hand suddenly touched a cold tab. He reached out and pulled it expressionlessly. It didn't budge. Girl, don't talk nonsense. Ma Shurchen hurriedly said. Unfortunately, it was too late. Because the tab didn't budge, Miss Chow channeled a wave of wood spirit onto the tab and pulled with all her might. Kaji, a huge circular hole suddenly appeared in the wall beside the tab. A strange fish leaped out of it. Ma Shurchen decisively flung it out with a vine whip. Pu. One after another, strange fish leaped out of the circular hole in the wall. Without even looking at Arbor and the others, they quickly swam in the direction of Uxin and the others. Chapter 1899. Miss Chow, who had done something bad, she silently raised her eyes to look at the speechless expressions of the two men beside her. Cough. Miss Chow retracted her fair and tender hand and said seriously to the two of them, I didn't do it on purpose. Emolien and Shurchen looked at each other and decided to treat Jojo's words as a joke and laugh it off. After all the strange fish jumped into the water from the round hole, Arbor stuck her head out to take a look and then beckoned to the two of them. Go in. She jumped into the round hole. Emolien hurriedly followed and pulled her to his side, touching her slightly cold little hand. The red flame flickered in his palm and he used his fire spiritual energy to wipe away the moisture on the little fellow's legs before drying his clothes. The three of them walked along a path paved with limestone. Not long after, they vaguely saw a ray of light. Arbor held Emolien's hand and hurriedly walked in. This place seemed to be a side chamber of an underground palace. Candlelight flickered all around and there was nothing inside. Arbor communicated mentally with the little water child and quickly walked forward. After passing through this side chamber of the underground palace, they walked into a stone room carved with countless murals. Arbor stood in the middle of this chamber and lightly stepped on the ground. Is there a way to dig up this ground quietly? She didn't want to make too much noise and attract Uxin and the rest. When that time came, although she could still take the black spirit jade mine for herself, she would still have to do something. It would be troublesome. Emolien nodded and a cluster of black fire landed on the ground, burning fiercely. The sacred fire that could burn everything was naturally a piece of cake for it to deal with this limestone ground. In just a few seconds, the ground had already sunk in from the heat, revealing a deep pit. Xiao Mu stretched out her hand, and the transparent water child circled around her finger. It jumped like a sprite before leaping into the deep pit and turning into a drop of water that slowly seeped into the depths of the ground. Soon, the little water child's joyful voice filled her conscious. Master Silver, I see it. Mystic Spirit Jade Mine. Very good. Take them all to Paradise Planet. But master, these profound spirit jade ores are buried underground. If I were to take them all away at once, the entire ground would collapse. Then this half of the underground palace will probably be lost. Aber nodded. Collect. For the sake of Little Tree's recovery, she was not afraid of any danger. Besides, this underground palace was so big that it would take a while for it to collapse. There was plenty of time for them to escape. Yes, master. Get ready. The little water baby nodded and began to collect the black spirit jade mine. His little heart was also very excited. With such a mineral vein below, it should be enough for the small tree to squander and absorb. As time passed, the entire mineral vein was finally absorbed into Paradise Planet by the little water child. Aber did not have time to take a closer look and directly dragged the little water baby into Paradise Planet. He then pulled Emolien and said to Cheng Chen, "Let's go." When the three of them came out of the anteroom, they happened to see Teacher Zhou leading the others in. Behind him was a group of battered and exhausted students from the Sunlight Academy. When the two clashed, everyone felt the ground shake and shake. They tried their best to stabilize themselves. "What's going on?" Zhou Dongjin's expression changed. "Let's go." Aber did not say anything else and turned to lead the others out. 7:30 p.m. Chapter 1900. It was obviously impossible to go back the way they came. At this moment, the water from the pool outside was surging into the round hole in the relief wall. In the blink of an eye, the cold water covered everyone's feet. Everyone looked outside in a daze. A strange fish with jagged teeth jumped in from the round hole and swam towards them at a high speed. Dao Wuji's eyes widened and he cursed in exasperation, "These damn fish are here again. Go 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 go." Everyone pushed each other and rushed forward. They jostled and staggered through the side hall of the underground palace. They didn't know what was going on in the underground palace. Everyone rushed forward in the corridor, their figures swaying back and forth with the shaking of the underground palace. Their faces were full of solemnity. The craftsmen who built this underground palace were most likely novices, right? Otherwise, how could such a large underground palace begin to shake as soon as they entered the side hall? Aber, Emolien, and Yuan Shichen ran at the front. They turned up the corridor and ran for a while before stopping. "Holy shit, this isn't a dead end, is it?" Dao Wuji squeezed through the crowd and came to the side of the three. He glanced at the thick stone block blocking the way. "Let me try." Dao Wuji gathered his spiritual energy and was about to send it out. His palm was suddenly stopped by Yuan Shichen. "Don't act rashly." At this time, they were all in the corridor. The underground palace behind them was constantly collapsing. If Dao Wuji sent a palm flying down, it would cause the entire corridor to collapse. In this way, everyone could be buried alive in this corridor. "Then what do we do now?" Dao Wuji glared at Yuan Shichen. "If we continue to fight, we will die. If we don't walk and wait for death, we will also die. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and go." Uxian screamed in panic. Everyone could only see an ice-cold stream of water sweeping towards them. As the water flow spread, the strange fish also swam over. From time to time, they would jump half a zhong high and bite their calves. King Hell. Little Fatty bent down and tied his trousers tightly. He swung his double-headed hammer and killed a strange fish that pounced at him, sending it flying. "Rise to the sky, rise to the sky." Zhou Danjin shouted in a low voice as he leaped into the air. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly floated into the air one after another. No matter how the strange fish jumped, it still couldn't bite their legs. However, if this continued, it would probably only save them for a while. This was because the tunnel would soon be filled with the ice-cold water. At that time, they would sink into the water, which would greatly affect their movements. Qi Xianxian wielded a purple treasured sword. She drew a sword flower and swept it horizontally, slashing apart 2 or 3 strange fishes that were darting towards her. Her pretty face sank slightly as she said, "Quickly think of a way to leave this tunnel." According to the current speed of the water flow, the entire tunnel would be filled to the brim with water in about 7 to 8 minutes. At that time, those strange fishes would be the rulers of the water. If they were surrounded by them, their lives would be in danger. At this time, Auber didn't make a move. Several of the Sunlight Academy students pushed them aside and pounced on the stone block blocking the way. They searched back and forth as if they were looking for a mechanism. Uxin and Hiwei squeezed to the left and right of the stone block. Chapter 1901. The two of them squatted on the stone block and touched the cracks in the stone block inch by inch. They then touched the green stones on the walls. After searching for a while, they didn't find anything useful. The water in the tunnel had almost gathered to the bottom of everyone's feet. One had to know that everyone was floating in the air right now. Therefore, in less than a few minutes, the water had almost reached the top of their feet, which was quite frightening. When the entire tunnel was covered by the cold water, everyone could only use their own protective shields to protect themselves and fight the strange fish in the water. The price to pay for this would be huge. The protective shields couldn't last forever. If the strange fish tore open a crack, the entire mystic weapon would be useless. Look. Uxian squatted on the stone block and looked at the water that had already reached her feet. Her eyes were filled with fear. At this moment, a student from the Sunlight Academy climbed onto the green stone wall and shouted in surprise, "Look, there's a tab here." People couldn't see it when they were standing on the ground. The student only saw the tab on the blue stone wall when he was close to the top of the tunnel. Mo Lian and Ma Shichen's eyelids twitched. Before Qiao Mu could blurt out, "Wait!" she saw that idiot pull on the tab and tug hard. Boom, boom, boom. In the depths of the underground palace, there was the sound of mechanisms clashing. A circular hole suddenly appeared on the bluestone wall beside the student. A strange fish suddenly jumped out and bit the student's neck. Ah! Cough, ugh. Ugh, ugh. The student struggled to escape, but he didn't have the strength to fight back. With a gotcha sound, the strange fish bit off half of the student's head. Blood flowed down the green stone wall and mixed with the cold water. Stimulated by the blood, the strange fish jumped out of the water and bit everyone's legs. Qi Xianxian, Little Fatty, and the rest quickly stabilized themselves and tried their best to float close to the limestone ceiling above them. One of their hands groped around the ceiling, as if they had grabbed onto something. They quickly tugged at it. "Don't move." Abba saw that Qi Xianxian was also pulling on a tab. The tab was made of brass and there was a layer of stone on the outside. It was completely stuck to the green stone wall. When it wasn't pulled, one couldn't tell that there was a tab. When one touched it, it would be because of all kinds of bad hands. Or perhaps it was because of their survival instincts, they would inexplicably pull at it. Qi Xuanxuan's hand froze on the spot. She didn't know if she should pull or not. Qiao Mu, Mo Lian, and Ji Chen hastily floated over and stared fixedly at this tab on the ceiling. At this moment, the strange fish that had swallowed the student from the Sunlight Academy and chewed on the remaining corpse of the student. Then, it quickly swam towards Uxian and Hiwei, who were on the stone block. Uxian's expression changed as she clenched her teeth and exerted all her strength as she blasted a wisp of profound energy towards the strange fish. Bam! The strange fish didn't slow down its speed at all. Instead, it opened its mouth and bit towards Uxian at an even faster speed. At the critical moment, the Sunlight Academy tutor threw out a wooden vine. Chapter 1902. After the wooden vines were flung away, they immediately wrapped around the waists of the two students and lifted them up in an instant. At the same time, the giant strange fish opened its mouth and bit down on the stone block with a loud bang. In an instant, it bit off a large chunk of stone from the stone block. The sharpness of its teeth made everyone's expression change abruptly. Holy shit, why is this mutated fish so big? Dao Wuji's eyes darkened. With a flip of his hand, he hit the fish and sank it. Ever since that student foolishly pulled the ring and opened up another round cave, many more strange fish jumped out. Limitless Blade took the lead and floated over to take a look. It was pitch black inside, without any light at all. It was probably a dead end. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and enter the cave. Uxian shouted. She floated over and wanted to enter the new cave. The Sunlight Academy's teacher hurriedly pulled her back. Wait. Zhou Danjin and Wei Wei were already behind Qi Xianxian. Seeing her touch the ring, their expressions darkened. It's very likely that it'll be another hole if you pull it. If I let go, I might not be able to. Qi Xianxian muttered softly. She obviously didn't use much strength when she pulled the ring, but now she had a bad feeling. It was as if something bad would happen if she let go. It's fine. Arba patted her shoulder. You'll have to let go no matter what. Let go. Let go and see what's going to happen. Qi Xianxian quickly retracted her hand. Just as she retracted her hand, another round cave appeared on the stone wall opposite her. It was perfectly symmetrical with the cave on the other side. This time, everyone was on guard. Seeing a huge monster fish jump out, everyone swung their spiritual power together and smashed it fiercely. In less than 2 seconds, this arrogant sawtooth monster fish was killed. Cold sweat appeared on Uxian's head. Let's go. Which cave do we go to? Everyone hurriedly looked up at their respective teachers. Zhou Danjin and Wei Wei pondered for a moment. In the end, they couldn't help but look at Emolien and He Chen. Where do you think we should go? Emolien raised her hand and pointed at the cave that Xian had opened. Let's go there. All right. Zhou Danjin nodded and led the group towards the hole in the blue stone wall. The instructor from the Sunlight Academy hurriedly called them from behind. Instructor, do you want to reconsider? Although the water hadn't reached the surface yet, it wouldn't take long for the water to cover the entire tunnel. At that time, the excess water would definitely pour into the round hole in the blue stone wall, and they would still be unable to escape the fate of being chased by the strange fish. Zhou Danjin's face darkened, but he didn't say anything. He decisively led the group of students into the blue stone cave. A huge tremor came from the tunnel behind him. Chapter 1903. When the last person from the Sunlight Academy stepped into the circular cave on the limestone wall, a loud sound came from behind them. Everyone turned around and saw that the path they came from was blocked by a huge rock that fell from the sky. Everyone's heart sank slightly. This underground palace was very strange. The interlocking mechanism seemed to be guiding the group forward step by step. They didn't know if it was a dead end or a way to escape. If there was no way out in the end, then perhaps everyone would be suffocated to death in this small passageway. This place would become their burial ground. Everyone sucked in a breath and followed Zhou Danjin's group forward. After the huge rock blocked the cave, although it cut off their path, it also cut off the water flow and the strange fish. The people from the Sunlight Academy, who were walking at the back, turned back to look at the dark tunnel. They couldn't describe the nervousness and melancholy in their hearts. The advantage of those strange fish was that there were many of them, and the combined attack power was enough to make them suffer a lot. Also, the mutated fish that appeared later were at least 3 to 5 times bigger than the original fish. It was even more difficult to deal with them. Mystic energy and spirit energy would dry up if they used too much. No one could hold on for 4 to 6 hours under this kind of siege without feeling tired. Uxian and He Wei followed closely behind the leading instructor, walking forward quickly. Every student's face revealed traces of anxiety. If people walked in the dark for a long time, they would feel a certain amount of psychological pressure. Also, everyone was uncertain about the road ahead. Naturally, the psychological pressure would be even greater. Feng Tong, do you think we can get out of here safely? A student from the Sunlight Academy asked his classmate in a low voice. Because the tunnel was narrow, only one person could pass through at a time. Therefore, everyone lined up in a long snake-like line, following the snaking line in front of them. After a long time, Wang Haiji didn't get a reply from his classmate. He looked back in confusion and saw his good friend Feng Tong following behind him with his head lowered. There was no one else behind them. Wang Haiji looked at Feng Tong and sighed. He turned around and patted Feng Tong's shoulder. "Don't worry, we'll definitely get out." Wang Haiji didn't know if he was comforting himself or others. He sighed, turned around, and walked a few steps faster. He called out to Feng Tong, "Feng Tong, hurry up. Haiji, what do you think we should do if there's no road ahead?" A female student in front of Wang Haiji couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Wang Haiji felt a chill run down his spine. He shrugged his shoulders. "Even if we have to crawl, we'll have to crawl out." The female student nodded listlessly. Her eyes casually glanced behind him, and her footsteps suddenly stopped. "Haiji, where's Feng Tong?" Wang Haiji turned around to take a look and felt a chill run down his spine. Feng Tong? Feng Tong? Wang Haiji turned his head abruptly. Feng Tong? Feng Tong? The female student shuddered and hurriedly gathered in the direction of the group. She ran a few steps and shouted, "Instructor, instructor, Feng Tong is missing." How could Feng Tong disappear? The leader of the Sunlight Academy turned around. Chapter 1904. Wasn't this path already blocked by the huge boulder at the back? Feng Tong disappeared without a sound. Everyone looked at the dark tunnel they had passed through when they came, their bodies emitting cold air. "Everyone be careful," the leading teacher said in a low voice. He had a very sullen feeling in his heart. They didn't encounter many corpse puppets in the mountain, they didn't even touch the edge of a large corpse puppet base. In the end, his school lost 2 students. It was really a headache. "Teacher, what do we do now?" Wang Haiji felt goosebumps all over his body. Such a big living person, who was following behind him just now, disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. "Continue forward." The teacher from the Sunlight School looked back and saw the luminous pearls getting further and further away from them. He hurriedly said, "Now is not the time to think about this. We have to catch up as soon as possible. Let's go." Wang Haiji swallowed his saliva and looked behind him again. The dark path was silent and there was no movement. He couldn't see the end of it. It was as if there was a huge black beast in the darkness, opening its mouth, waiting for its delicious meal to arrive. Wang Haiji shivered and hurriedly followed the group. This narrow passageway seemed to be especially long. They had been walking for almost 2 hours, but they still hadn't reached the end. After another quarter of an hour, Wang Haiji vaguely heard a faint breathing sound coming from behind him. The breathing sound was very heavy, mixed with a few wheezing sounds, like a lazy donkey dragging a broken cart. The footsteps were heavy. Wang Haiji quickened his pace, his face almost turning green. Previously, Feng Tong had disappeared behind him, so he was the last person in the team. But now, who was the one who was breathing heavily behind him? Wang Haiji only felt that his neck was as stiff as a car wheel that had not been repaired for a long time. He could even hear the sound of his neck bones moving. Wang Haiji carefully looked at the people behind him and let out a tragic scream. The group stopped. This long line of people added up to 60 to 70 people. Arbor and the others were walking in front of the group. They didn't know what was going on with the scream behind them. What happened? Instructor Zhou frowned and turned to look at the back of the team. The instructor from Honghu Academy, who was following closely behind the top academies, quickly stepped forward and said, "You are Instructor Zhou, right? Should we stop and rest for a while? Should we send someone to check the rear?" After walking in this dark and long corridor for so long, the students were not in good condition. Teacher Zhou heard this and turned around to look at the group of students behind him. Under the illumination of the night illumination pearls, Lu Yu and the others didn't look too good, but at least they weren't as pale as the other students. "All right, let's rest here for a quarter of an hour." Instructor Zhou nodded. After all, from the moment the strange fish attacked, they had been fleeing all the way. They barely had time to catch their breath. The leading instructor from Honghu Academy nodded gratefully at Instructor Zhou. Then, he turned around and said, "Pass the message down one by one. Rest here for half a quarter of an hour. Everyone, use this time to recover your strength and mystic energy. Don't let your imagination run wild. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads one after another. Chapter 1905. As soon as the instructors finished speaking, some of the students immediately collapsed onto the ground, looking both mentally and physically exhausted, panting heavily. It was mainly because they were too mentally exhausted. They had been stretched taut the entire journey. Now that they could rest for a quarter of an hour, it was as if they had extended half of their lives. After everyone sat down against the wall, the few people from Sunlight Academy standing at the back of the group were especially eye-catching. Everyone, sit down and don't move. The Honghu Academy instructor instructed and walked towards the back of the group. Due to the fact that everyone was leaning against the wall with their legs tucked in, there was some space in the narrow passageway for the instructors of Honghu Academy to pass through. Qiao Mu was sitting next to Emolien. It was unknown what she was pondering, but her eyes were half-lidded and she didn't say a word. At the end of the team, Feng Tong, the student from the Sunlight Academy who had disappeared and then reappeared, strangled his classmate Wang Haiji's neck as if he had gone mad. With dim lights flashing in his eyes, he stared at Wang Haiji coldly and emotionlessly as if he hated Wang Haiji so much that he wanted to strangle him on the spot. No matter how the other students gathered their strength and bombarded his back, he remained unmoved. Although blood was dripping from the corner of Feng Tong's mouth, and it was obvious that his body was also injured, he was especially strong at this moment. His hands that were strangling Wang Haiji were like two steel pliers, firmly fixed there. Wang Haiji's eyes rolled back, and he was gasping for air. Seeing this, the Honghu Academy instructor's eyes darkened. He hurriedly threw out a yellow talisman and slapped it onto Feng Tong's body. Gee! A short and sharp cry sounded in the air. In the dark and long tunnel, it was extremely frightening. Qiao Mu returned to her senses from her thoughts, and she suddenly pulled out a spiritual dagger from her waist. She then carved a Zhengzhi character on the wall behind her with a creak. His face darkened as he turned towards the direction of Sunlight Academy. From a distance, he looked at Feng Tong, who was being dragged to the ground by the instructors. They were stepping on him, but he was still writhing. The group of students looked at Feng Tong, who was still writhing and screaming under the feet of the Honghu Academy instructors. They all swallowed their saliva silently. At this time, Wang Haiji, who was finally able to exhale a long breath, covered his chest with a pale face and coughed loudly. Haiji, how are you? A few students from the Sunlight Academy gathered around and asked with concern. Wang Haiji could not help but smile bitterly. The taste of taking a trip to the gates of hell was really unpleasant. When Feng Tong grabbed him by the neck just now, he thought he was going to die. Because even though he had accumulated all the strength in his body and smashed his profound energy onto Feng Tong's body, he was still unable to push him away. Feng Tong's strength was simply astonishing, and there was a feeling that he could not be defied. The Sunlight Academy's instructor looked at the Honghu Academy instructor who was stepping on Feng Tong with a shocked expression. Instructor, what's wrong with my student? What happened? He's probably possessed by a ghost spirit. The instructor from Honghu Academy said in a deep voice. He exerted force with his feet and firmly stepped on Feng Tong, who was twisting his body and howling madly. However, the protective talisman in my hand is not enough to repel this ghost spirit. We need to think of another way. The instructor frowned slightly. If only we had a rope to tie him up first. Didn't someone bring a bundle? Chapter 1906. Yuxian turned her head to look in Arbor's direction. Everyone's voices weren't low, so Arbor naturally heard them. She hugged her small blue and white cloth bag and walked over. Emolien followed behind her, frowning as she looked at Feng Tong, who was being stepped on by the Honghu instructor. When Feng Tong saw that more people were surrounding him, he glared fiercely and bared his teeth at Arbor and Emolien as he roared. Emolien curled her lips into a smile that wasn't a smile. A purple flame rose from her fingertip, and she was about to throw it at Feng Tong. Gee! A sharp cry came from Feng Tong's body, as if he was afraid of the flame. His entire body trembled as he hugged himself, and he lay on the ground without moving. "Do you want to come out yourself, or do you want me to beat you up until you come out?" Arbor said coldly. A dozen blue safety talismans appeared from her sleeves, each one emitting a faint blue light. Gee! This ghost spirit probably didn't expect that it would encounter a young couple, one more savage than the other. If he still had a shred of consciousness left, he would definitely cry tears of sympathy for his own experience. "Still not coming out?" the little fellow shouted impatiently. She raised her hand, and the dozen blue safety talismans flew towards Fong Tong's body. Fong Tong, however, suddenly started coughing violently. Prince Mo hurriedly grabbed the little fellow's finger and helplessly pointed at a place in front of her. "It's coming out." Miss Chow raised her head to look at the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince immediately understood and hurriedly moved her small body in a certain direction. He pointed at a corner. "It's there." In a place that the little fellow couldn't see, the black shadow had curled itself into a ball. It shrank into a corner against the wall, and it hated that it couldn't squeeze itself into a crack in the wall. It wasn't that it couldn't, but it was afraid that if it acted rashly, before it could escape, the purple flame and talismans of the savage couple would hit its body. At that time, its soul would definitely scatter. The little fellow took out the ghost spirit pearl and waved in the direction that Prince Mo pointed. "Come." The ghost spirit's face was probably twisted as it shrank back, not daring to approach. Although Arbor couldn't see it, seeing that the ghost spirit pearl didn't light up, he knew that the ghost spirit didn't enter the pearl. Her little face immediately darkened and the talisman in her hand jumped slightly. "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." It looked like it was about to flare up in the next second. Screech! The ghost spirit let out a mournful cry and rushed towards the bead in Arbor's hand in the blink of an eye. After a burst of dazzling light, Arbor turned his head and glanced at Prince Mo. "He went in?" The Crown Prince nodded helplessly. Arbor replied with an "oh," and put away the ghost spirit pearl. He coldly glanced at Fong Tong, who was coughing and spitting on the ground. She frowned in disgust, and her little mouth was extremely venomous. "Useless fellow, just a mere ghost spirit and you're already like this. Take it." He took out an ordinary water gourd from his bag and tossed it to Fong Tong. Fong Tong held the gourd and hurriedly opened it. He gulped down 5 or 6 mouthfuls of water. He only felt that the water was sweet and pure, and after drinking it, his whole body felt warm and comfortable. He wiped his mouth and raised his head to look in the direction that Arbor left. With a face full of gratitude, he called out loudly, "Many thanks to Miss for saving me." Arbor snorted and muttered in a low voice, "A fellow who's dragging me down." Chapter 1907. Prince Mo couldn't help but smile. No matter how venomous this little fellow's mouth was, the things she did couldn't help but make one's heart warm. Raising his hand to rub the little fellow's head, the Crown Prince chuckled and said, "My Jojo is so good." Miss Chow turned her head with a proud expression, then couldn't help but tilt her head and sneak a glance at Prince Mo. Coincidentally, she met the Crown Prince's smiling gaze. This guy's gaze had been on her from the beginning until now, never moving away. The Sunlight Academy students hurriedly seized the time to rest for a while. When 7 minutes were up, Zhou Danjin called out, "Let's go." The group of people got up again and walked toward the front of the tunnel. After walking for nearly 2 hours, Arbor stopped and said with a heavy expression, "Everyone, stop." "What's wrong?" Zhou Danjin stilled. Arbor squatted down with a heavy expression and pointed at a clear Zheng character on the limestone wall. "I carved this here when we were resting just now." Both Zhou Danjin and Wei Wei's expressions changed. Everyone's expressions also became extremely unsightly. "No wonder," Little Fatty said with a pale face. "Why is it that this tunnel doesn't look long, but we can't seem to finish walking?" "I've always felt that it was a bit strange too," Qi Xianxian said, "so we've been going back and forth on this path." Arbor nodded. "Everyone, let's look around. There's probably a teleportation glyph formation on this path. Every time we walk to that glyph formation, The glyph formation will silently teleport us back to the starting point. What? Uxian exclaimed in shock. How is that possible? We walked into the glyph formation, didn't anyone feel it? If you felt it, you wouldn't have been unable to walk out of this tunnel. Mata shouted at Uxian exasperatedly. Senior sister Uxian. Hiwei reached out and pulled Uxian's sleeve, giving her a look that said, "A wise person submits to circumstances." Right now, they still had to rely on Arbor and the others to walk out. It wouldn't be too late to settle the score with Arbor after they got out. Uxian had obviously thought of this as well, so she lowered her gaze and didn't say anything else. Everyone spread out on the road, looking for the teleportation array that Arbor had mentioned. After everyone had left, Arbor turned to Zhou Danjin and said, "Professor, come here for a moment. This teleportation array is embedded in this tunnel. If we don't dig it out, we won't be able to find it," Arbor said coldly. Zhou Danjin and Wei Wei looked at her in surprise. "What do you mean?" So, just now, the little fellow had asked them to look for the teleportation glyph array everywhere in order to distract those people so that he could talk to them? "I have a way to get us out of here. However, I'll have to trouble you all to hide in the storage talisman first. Are you willing?" What are you going to do?" The teleportation glyph array formed by the profound level blue glyph I made can teleport no more than 20 kilometers away, and the maximum number of people it can teleport is 10. It can't be teleported more than 6 times in a row. Arbor said indifferently. "I need Professor Zhou, Senior Brother Duanmu and the others to enter the teleportation glyph. Are you all willing?" Zhou Danjin nodded blankly. "Yes, if we can get out of here, of course we're willing." "What's Kiki?" "That teleportation glyph array." Professor Zhou felt as if he was listening to a fairy tale. Chapter 1908. Something like a teleportation glyph array. Was it something that could be made by just anyone? The little girl, however, had an indifferent expression, as if making a teleportation glyph array was not a big deal. There might be a deviation in the teleportation process. The little girl said expressionlessly, "Maybe it will appear in the corpse puppet camp, or maybe it will appear in the pool we just passed. It will land randomly, and it will depend on your face." That's right, teleportation glyph arrays and teleportation glyph arrays were basically the same thing. But at least a teleportation glyph array could transport 10 people at once, and her mystic-level teleportation glyph array could transport people 6 times in a row. As long as their faces were not extremely dark. Arbor felt that they would be able to get out of this crappy tunnel. As long as they could get out of this tunnel where the teleportation glyph array was hidden, there would still be some hope. Then what about them? Zhou Danjin asked in a low voice, pointing at the students and instructors of the other academies behind them. Arbor frowned slightly. They could bring them, but there were 2 particularly annoying ones that Jojo really did not want to bring. Zhou Danjin hurriedly said, "How about this, instructor, go talk to them. Let them bleed a bit, and we will bring them out. For the funds of our academy." "Ah, right. I can buy you 2 sets of academy uniforms. The quality of the materials will definitely be beautiful. I guarantee that you will be many times more beautiful than those bastards from Sunlight Academy." Arbor expressionlessly looked at his stingy instructor, then turned around and faced him with the back of his head. She did not know what to say to this person. He was using her as a means to make money, and insisted on getting some from the other academies before he was willing to give them 2 sets of academy uniforms. It could not be helped, the instructors were poor. Poor people have low ambitions. This was not nonsense. Zhou Danjin chuckled and ran to the instructors of Honghu Academy and Frostwind Academy, whispering to them for a while. The eyes of the instructors of the 2 academies lit up, and they nodded, saying, of course, if you can bring us out of here unharmed, we will definitely reward you." After that, Instructor Zhou took advantage of his seniority and squeezed the students of Hippo Academy dry. Finally, he came to the instructor of Sunlight Academy. It had to be said that Instructor Zhou's eloquence was exceptional. When Mr. Zhou returned to Arbor with a big smile on his face, Arbor felt that the faces of those naughty kids and mentors of Sunlight Academy had become worse than before. Just now, the teachers of the Sunlight Academy begged us to take you XIN and he way away. Because of this, the teacher has ruthlessly squeezed them dry. Jojo, don't worry, the teacher will definitely share with you what we get. 1/5. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but vomit blood. Can you be any more stingy? The storage talisman was Jojo's, and the teleportation array was Jojo's as well. Jojo brought a group of people out of this damned place, and in the end, you were the one who collected the money. Arbor looked at Zhou Danjin, speechless, and gave him a "as long as you're happy" look. Then, he suddenly threw out an empty blue storage talisman and put everyone inside. Regardless of how surprised they were at the storage talisman, Arbor turned to Emolien, He Chen, and little Tai Sui, who were still standing outside, and said, "Let's go." 60 ebony blue talismans slowly rose around her. The end of the 6th watch. Chapter 1909. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in a palace with a high ceiling. This main hall seemed to be much larger than the side hall they had entered before. The structure was much more luxurious than the side palace. In addition, there were 16 huge golden pillars with coiled dragons. Silk floated in the air and bells rang out. At first glance, it seemed to be the residence of some aristocrat. After coming out of the teleportation rune array, Dao Wuji let out a sigh of relief. Good. We didn't get sent back. If they were sent back to a collapsed place, it would be really depressing. In any case, he had completely left the tunnel where the teleportation rune array was hidden, and he had been successfully teleported in one go. Arbor waved the storage rune and led Instructor Zhou and the others out. Look around. This hall looks so luxurious, but it's completely empty inside. The Sunlight Academy's leading instructor muttered softly, and his gaze seemed to shift back and forth between Xiao Mu's body. Other than some golden pillars, there was really nothing else in the hall. After the instructor's careless reminder, everyone from the Sunlight Academy looked at Arbor and the others strangely. Seeing this, Zhou Dongjin's face darkened and he scolded angrily, "You don't know what's good for you." "What do you mean? Did they empty the hall before they let you out?" Yu Xian snorted. "With such a big storage rune, it's not impossible to move some things." Xiao Mu coldly swept a glance at Yu Xian, her gaze as sharp as a blade, causing Yu Xian to inexplicably shudder. Arbor said coldly, "There's nothing in the palace. Even if there was, even if I emptied it, what can you do?" Yu Xian was rendered speechless. Arbor's words weren't pleasant to hear, but he was right. Even if she emptied the palace, what could they do? Fight? Could they win? Turn hostile? Now that they had yet to leave this unknown underground palace, if something were to happen after they fell out, there would be no one to help them. He Wei coughed lightly and tugged at Yu Xian, whose expression was unsightly. He then turned to look at Arbor with a smile and said, "Miss Chow, this is all a misunderstanding. I hope you won't be angry. Alright, I see that you have quite a few storage talismans on you. Hey, are you willing to sell it?" "Sell my ass." Zhou Danjin waved her hand angrily. She took a few steps forward and took out a bag from her waist. Okay. Pay the money. You can continue after you pay." The leader of the Sunlight College stared at Zhou Danjin with a dark face. He reluctantly took out a spirit coin card from his waist and threw it to Zhou Danjin. The guy surnamed Zhou was quite angry. They were in the same team, but the cost of the teleportation rune arrays of the Sunlight Academy was 5 times higher than that of the Honghu Academy and the Hippo Academy. Zhou Danjin rolled his eyes and snorted, "Alright, let's look around and see if there's a way out." Wait. He Wei almost couldn't maintain the kind smile that he pretended to have. "Miss Chow, I wonder if my suggestion just now, in your dreams." He even gave them storage talismans. Did he really think that his face was as big as the sun? Arbor turned and pulled Emolien to the side. He Wei's expression became extremely ugly. Chapter 1910. She was so angry that she almost broke her teeth from clenching them. He Wei's expression was extremely malicious as he coldly watched Xiao Mu and Emolien's departing figures, and he subconsciously clenched his fists. Despicable brat. She didn't know what was good for her. He was willing to pay for it, and she dared to say that it was a dream? Despicable. Zhou Danjin was also in a bad mood. Originally, since they were all from the 6 Prefectures Academy, he acted as a mediator and brought the Sunlight Academy people along. But he didn't expect that the Sunlight Academy people, from the teachers to the students, were all troublemakers. The Sunlight Academy teachers even dared to slander their students and say that they took the treasures in the hall. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Without Xiao Mu to bring them out of the tunnel, how could they still be alive to fight for the treasures? Zhou Danjin regretted it. If he knew that this group of people would be so troublesome, he would have charged them 100 times the price. Soon, everyone gathered in the center of the hall. The Honghu Academy teacher said, "I took a look. There are a total of 4 tunnels around the hall and we don't know where each tunnel leads to. I think the best way is for our 4 academies to go through the 4 tunnels." Teacher Wei pondered for a moment and said, "If we can't get through, we'll turn back and gather in the hall." Everyone looked at each other. The Honghu Academy teacher shook his head. "If we split up, our strength will be dispersed too. If that's the case, we'll be in trouble if we encounter any danger." Teacher Wei glanced at him indifferently. "Oh? Then teacher, do you think it's better for everyone to go through the same tunnel?" "That's right." The Sunlight Academy teacher quickly nodded. "Let's go together." Teacher Wei glanced at them non-committally. "Let's go." Zhou Danjin led his students to a tunnel on the left. The Sunlight Academy teacher was still yelling behind them, Hey, don't you want to think about it carefully?" Zhou Danjin and the others ignored him and walked into the tunnel. The Sunlight Academy teacher's face was dark. Uxin suggested, "Why don't we go by ourselves? There's no need to look at the faces of those people from top academies." "What kind of top-notch academy is this? They're turning their backs on us just like that," a student said angrily. Feng Tong frowned. "Can everyone stop complaining for now? They're being polite by bringing us along. If they don't bring us along, we can't say anything." After all, they were not related to each other, and no one had the obligation to protect the people of the Sunlight Academy. Feng Tong's words immediately attracted the angry glares of a few Sunlight Academy students. He Wei scolded him, "You're such a traitor. You only know how to put in a good word for others." Wang Haiji glanced at He Wei. "Miss Chow saved us just now." "You shut up." He Wei shrieked. "That's just a small matter for her. If she hadn't been so hesitant, she would have brought us along to use the teleportation rune array." Su Liang's face darkened as he scolded, "Are you done yet? Who do you think you are? Why don't you think about what happened between you and those 2 girls from the top academies? You still have the face to ask others to do this and that?" He Wei was furious. Chapter 1911. Su Liang sneered as he looked at the 2 of them and said, "In your dreams." Looking at Su Liang's merciless eyes, He Wei's heart was filled with anger and grievance. She pouted and shouted, "Senior brother Su Liang, we are your junior sisters." Humph. Su Liang didn't want to talk to them anymore. Along the way, he had had enough of the stupidity and ignorance of these 2 women. They really thought that the sun was shining on them. It was ridiculous. Why should other people give them face? Just look at those 2 stupid women. Are they qualified? Let's go. The entire Sunlight Academy was divided into 2 teams. Su Liang led Wang Haiji, Feng Tong, and a few other young men and walked toward Auber's team without looking back. The instructor from the Sunlight Academy had a gloomy face. His drooping mouth could almost hang an oil bottle. His anger was obvious. He also wanted to refuse to follow the people from the top academy and take the other students to another path. But now wasn't the time to be angry. With his ability, if something happened, he might not be able to protect so many students with the other two instructors. If the students were injured or killed, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. On top of that, he himself also coveted the transfer talisman matrix on Xiao Mu. Following Arbor would definitely bring him a lot of benefits. Even if they encountered a place they couldn't get out of, they could just use the teleportation array and get out of there, right? But the price was 2F** king expensive. As his mind raced, the Sunlight Academy's instructor signaled his two colleagues with his eyes and quickly chased after Xiao Mu's group with the rest of the students. As soon as they stepped into the spacious path, they saw Instructor Zhou from the top academy quickly retreating with a group of people. The instructor from the Sunlight Academy was about to mock them when he saw a bunch of black things following behind them. His expression changed drastically. "What's wrong with you guys? Why did you attract all the ghosts?" The instructor from the Sunlight Academy wanted to curse. This bunch of bastards, he had told them to consider carefully and choose a path to take. In the end, they didn't listen to him and randomly chose a path, luring out a swarm of ghost spirits. At this time, Zhou Danjin, Wei Wei, and the other instructors all had a gloomy face. They tried their best to protect the students and retreated to the hall. They were too lazy to care about that idiot from the Sunlight Academy. Feng Tong couldn't help but say, "Instructor Chao Yen, you've misunderstood. It's not the path we took that has ghosts. You'll know when you turn around." The Sunlight Academy's teacher's expression changed slightly. Together with the other students, they all looked back and saw dark shadows emerging from the 4 tunnels. It turned out that it wasn't just one tunnel that was filled with ghost spirits, but all 4 of them. From the moment they entered, the ghost spirits had been gathering. It was just that they had coincidentally gathered and exploded at the same time. Chao Yan's expression changed a few times, and he quickly said, "Quick, quick, who has a protective talisman? Quickly take it out and give it to everyone." Although he said, "You all," Chao Dan's eyes were fixated on Xiao Mu from beginning to end. Although he didn't know that Arbor was a great talisman master, it was an undeniable fact that Arbor had many talismans. Xiao Mu could not help but be amused by this matter-of-fact attitude. She expressionlessly glanced at instructor Chao Yen before lowering her eyes and sneering. "Ha!" Chapter 1912. They were truly a group of people who were naive to the extreme. Why did they think that Arbor had the obligation to provide them with the safety talisman for free? Zhou Danjin couldn't help but rage. "Scram! This place is filled with ghost spirits. Didn't you say that you would organize everyone to fight against the ghost spirits? Why are you staring at our Xiqiao?" Qi Xianxian glanced at Chao Dan unhappily. She did not like the way he looked at Xiqiao. Where did that feeling of determination come from? Did Jojo owe their school something? Prince Emo glanced at Chao Dan and the others with a half-smile. He didn't say anything and just pulled Arbor to the back of the crowd. His attitude was clearly saying, "Go ahead if you're so good. Jojo, you must be hungry after all this." Emolien patted her head and chuckled. "What do you want to eat?" Xiao Mu wore a "I'm full of anger from those people" expression as she said dispiritedly, "Eating dragon meat is tasteless when I'm with these people." In Emolien's spiritual consciousness, Little Seven flew into a rage. "Master! Listen, listen, listen. She just wants to eat dragon meat. She just wants to eat me. No wonder she always beat him up whenever she saw him. She wanted to beat Little Seven to death and roast him. What a violent woman. Master must be crazy to like her so much." All right. Emolien helplessly consoled our dear 7th Yen who had gone berserk. Arbor looked up at Emolien and wrinkled his little nose. "What are you doing?" After saying one sentence, he suddenly fell silent. Could it be that 7th Yen was bad-mouthing Chow Chow to him again? Emolien couldn't help but laugh. She pulled Arbor and waved her hand to take out a small stool and a small square table from the storage talisman. "Jojo, have some porridge first, okay?" As he spoke, he took out the porridge that he had cooked in advance from the storage talisman and filled a bowl for Arbor. "You only ate a carrot today. How can you continue like this? You'll lose weight. Come, eat something to fill your stomach. When we get out, I'll cook a big meal for you. Abba thought about it and agreed. He sat down, picked up the small bowl, and ate the porridge with a spoon. Occasionally, he would eat some side dishes. Seeing that she was eating, Emolienne couldn't help but smile and wave her hand. She took out a stool from the storage talisman and looked at her. If you don't eat, how can you have the energy to fight, right? Right. Abba nodded in agreement. He reached for a snack and took 2 bites. He didn't even look up as he ate happily. She didn't even need to raise her head to know that Chao Dan, Uxin, and the others from the Sunlight Academy were staring at her like poisonous arrows. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal appeared beside them in a flash. I'm hungry too. Get lost. Emolienne waved her hand. As an immortal supremacy, this guy couldn't possibly be hungry. Even if he had to drink wind and eat dirt for half a year, he couldn't possibly be hungry. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal couldn't be bothered with Emolienne. He asked Jojo for a fully equipped storage talisman. Beaming, he took the bowl and chopsticks and scooped the porridge himself. Emolienne snorted. A immortal supremacy guy was actually a foodie. No one would believe it. Lien, why aren't you eating? Abba scooped another bowl of porridge. It's quite good. Emolienne reached out and patted her head. Eat more. He didn't feel hungry at all. Naturally, he couldn't be like that foodie rotten peach blossom who wanted a bite of whatever Jojo ate. Chapter 1913. Abba finished 2 bowls of porridge and 3 pieces of pastries. She rubbed her round tummy, wiped her mouth, and stopped eating. She stood up and took out some fruits and pastries from her storage talisman. She waved at Qi Xianxian and the others and said, Xianxian, little fatty, come and eat something if you're tired. In front of her, everyone was fighting with a bunch of ghosts. It was chaotic and fiery, and all kinds of spiritual power were flying around. Compared to that mess, Abba looked like it was just sitting there and watching the clouds rise. The scene was very funny. Zhou Danjin and the others turned around and looked at the little girl with their mouths twitching. They didn't know if it was their imagination, but they felt that there wasn't a single ghost around the little girl. What was going on? Xianxian and the little fatty were already dead tired, so they quickly ran towards Qiao Mu when they heard this. The 4 to 5 ghost spirits that were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws abruptly stopped when they were 8 feet away from Qiao Mu. They abruptly shrieked and dashed toward instructor Chao Yen from the Sunlight Academy on the side. Chao Yen was shocked. He was already having a hard time dealing with 4 or 5 ghosts. At this moment, the spirits that were chasing after Qi Xianxian and Little Fatty were all attacking him. For a moment, his back was wide open. Qi La, one of the spirit's sharp claws tore through his defensive barrier. Chao Xian shuddered when he felt the gloomy cold air enter his body. It was very unfair to fight ghosts. Other than fire spiritual masters, who had an innate advantage against ghosts, no one else could hurt them at all. A large amount of spiritual energy had been consumed, but the ghost spirit was completely unscathed. This was a very worrying matter. As Qi Xianxian was running, she suddenly stopped and looked at Qiao Mu with a strange expression. Abba beckoned her with its little finger. Come. I have your favorite hibiscus pastries. However, Qi Xianxian ignored Qiao Qiao and abruptly turned around to run in the opposite direction of Qiao Mu. When the ghosts in all directions saw her, they all swarmed towards her. Qi Xianxian hurriedly took 2 steps back, and those ghost spirits turned around and left. Qi Xianxian took a few more steps forward, and the ghostly spirits rushed over. Yes. No wonder it looked so strange. Little Fatty could also tell what Qi Xianxian was doing. He walked to her side and as if he was experimenting, he took 3 steps forward and 2 steps backward. Then, the 2 of them looked at each other with strange expressions before turning to look at Miss Qiao, who had a confused look on her face. What are you 2 doing? It felt like they were crazy. Duan Mu, senior brother Lu Yu, stop fighting. We're almost at Jojo. Qi Xianxian shouted at the top of her lungs. Duanmu Qing turned around to glance at them. With a leap, he broke free from the encirclement of ghosts and arrived beside Arbor. Then, he slightly raised his slender eyebrows and looked at Arbor with some surprise. Arbor saw that Lu Yu and the others were looking at her strangely. She wrinkled her nose and asked expressionlessly, "What are you looking at?" "Jojo, did you not notice?" "What did I notice?" Arbor could not help but want to throw her little hand. But on the surface, she still had a serious expression. "What's the matter?" Qi Xianxian pursed her lips. She turned around and shouted at Arbor, "Jojo, pay attention. Look at me, look at me." Qi Xianxian ran forward a few steps. She was 8 feet away. Chapter 1914. As the swarm of ghosts surrounded her, she hurriedly took 2 steps back. Then, she turned to look at Arbor. Qi Xianxian blinked at her and asked, "Jojo, can you tell?" Emolian wanted to laugh, but when she noticed the little fellow's dazed expression, she could not help but burst out laughing. The venerable Peach Blossom Immortal ate the side dishes slowly and raised his chopsticks. "Don't waste your energy. It's not like you don't know that this little fellow can't see any ghosts at all. So your ridiculous experiment, sorry, this little fellow can't see it at all. Can't you see her dazed expression? She doesn't know what's going on at all?" Qi Xianxian was speechless. She had run here and there to show Jojo her experiment, but it was like playing the lute to a cow. She quickly ran to Arbor's side and stopped messing around. She took a piece of hibiscus pastry and ate it. Arbor looked at her curiously and asked, "What did you want me to see just now? Ghost spirits?" Jojo, who couldn't see ghosts, was also very distressed. Why couldn't she see the things that everyone else could see with their spiritual senses? "It's fine if you can't see them. They're not beautiful things anyway. They're all ugly and ugly. It's good that you can't see them," Ma Shurchen said. Prince Emo nodded in agreement, which was rare. "Jojo, you can't sense any ghost's aura at all, right?" Arbor nodded vigorously. He also found it very strange. "Xianxian did an experiment just now," Ko Hongwen said. The little fatty Ko Hongwen said, "Every time she runs out, when she is 8 feet away from you, the ghost spirits will swarm towards her, and when she returns to your side, those ghost spirits will leave on their own. So Jojo, your body is very strange. Is this the legendary ghost spirit dispersing body?" Mata rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Ah, there's such a strange body in this world?" Qi Xianxian was confused. "Of course not. Don't listen to Mata's nonsense." Little Fatty rolled his eyes at Mata and said, "I've only heard of innate spiritual water body and innate pure elemental body. I've never heard of ghost spirit dispersal body like he said." Qi Xianxian glared at Mata and nodded. "Okay. Don't think too much. This is a good thing." Lu Yu smiled and said, "As long as we stand next to Jojo, the spirits will automatically fade away. Isn't that good?" As they spoke, Zhou Danjin, Wei Wei, and the other mentors also ran over while panting. They grabbed the cups on the table and gulped down some water. "There are too many ghost spirits. If we continue to fight like this, we will definitely exhaust our spiritual energy. Teacher, please take a rest first." Qi Xianxian hurriedly said. "I'm afraid that more and more ghosts will gather." The 5 mentors sat down, and Zhou Danjin looked up at Arbor. "Is there a way to teleport again?" "It's possible, but I'm not sure about the teleportation location." "If we return to the starting point, then all our efforts will be in vain," Arbor said expressionlessly. Zhou Danjin clenched his teeth. "If this continues, it won't work. The moment everyone's spiritual energy is exhausted, it will be our burial ground." Zhou Danjin turned his head and looked at Instructor Wei Wei, who was tugging at his sleeve. "Why are you tugging at me?" Wei Wei passed him a piece of pastry and ate it himself. There was no expression on his face. "I'm talking about serious matters." Zhou Danjin chewed on the pastry and said angrily, "Stupid. Wei Wei glanced at him and was worried about his intelligence. Chapter 1915. This old fellow has been sitting here for half a day. Did he not notice anything unusual? Instructor Wei Wei's disdainful gaze swept over Zhou Danjin. He even signaled Instructor Hu was sitting beside him, to raise Instructor Zhou's intelligence. Instructor Hu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and said, "Instructor Zhou, didn't you notice that we've been sitting here for half a day, and not a single ghost dared to come over?" Instructor Zhou was stunned, then nodded in realization. "That's right. What's going on?" Instructor Zhou quickly asked Instructor Hu, "Instructor Hu, we've been sitting here for a long time, why haven't any ghosts followed us?" Motta's mouth twitched, and he coughed lightly. "It's obvious, Instructor Zhou. We have Jojo, the ghost spirit's body here. None of the ghosts dare to come over." Ghost spirit's body? What kind of strange body was this? Instructor Zhou looked at Wei Wei in confusion. Wei Wei looked up at the sky, not bothering to say anything to this idiot colleague of his. A student casually tricked him, and he believed it. "Look at me, look at me." Qi Xianxian ran back and forth, letting Zhou Danjin see the changes in the ghosts. Zhou Danjin's eyes widened, and he looked around him in surprise. He nodded and said, "It's really ghost spirit's body?" Just now, they were dealing with a large group of ghosts, so who had the time to pay attention to the situation here? They only looked around and felt that something was off. Now that they had been sitting here for half a day, they immediately noticed the difference. Zhou Danjin's eyes brightened, and he quickly stuffed himself with food and drank 2 cups of water. He smiled and said, "That's easy. Let's go, that passage is still very wide. We just have to surround Student Qiao, and we can continue moving." Wei Wei looked at Instructor Zhou with gratification. It wasn't easy, his intelligence finally came online. Seeing that everyone was full, Abba took the rest of the food and water. Suddenly, he heard an angry rebuke. "Wait!" Yuexian rushed forward and glared at the empty table. She was so angry that her eyes were vertical. You. Selfish. Yoshin screamed and pointed at Arbor with a trembling finger. Slap. Little Fatty swatted her hand away in annoyance. "What are you doing? If you don't know how to speak properly, scram. What are you pointing at?" Yuexin glared at Little Fatty, her face flushed red. "You guys are really... simply... They had gone too far. You brought so much food and water, but you only care about yourself. Look at how tired everyone is. You... very close to you." Miss Chow interrupted Yuexian's accusation with a cold face. "I think you're probably a retard." Everyone was speechless. Yuexian's eyes turned red as she clenched her fists. "What will it take for you to share your food and water with us? With that attitude of yours, I'm not willing no matter what." Qi Xianxian said unhappily, "Who do you think you are? Yelling and shouting at others. She wanted to be the young miss. Go home and be a rich young lady. Don't show off your IQ in front of us." *TCH. Yuexian was so angry that blood rushed to her head. With red eyes, she threw a punch at Qi Xianxian and leaped towards her. Slap. Qi Xianxian didn't hold back. She wasn't an idiot. How could she not retaliate when someone pounced on her and bit her? Chapter 1916. A huge slap landed on Yuexian's face. Ah! Yuexian fell to the ground. How could the exhausted Yuexian be a match for Qi Xianxian, who was full of energy? She would be asking for trouble if she went up to fight with Xianxian. Yuexian struggled to get up from the ground and shouted at the group of brothers and sisters behind her, "Why aren't you attacking her together? Take this bitch down." She had suffered a huge loss and naturally wouldn't let it go. Qi Xianxian, on the other hand, was very nimble. She evaded her with a tricky move and reached out to grab her left wrist. Yuxian screamed in pain. Qi Xianxian kicked the back of Yuxian's knee, causing her to fall flat on her face. You overestimate yourself. Qi Xianxian clapped her hands and stepped on Yuxian's back. If you spout any more nonsense, I'll kill you. Teacher. Senior brother Su Liang. Lady, stop it. Teacher Chao Dan from the Sunlight Academy frowned and reprimanded her. If something were to happen to Yuxian, it would be a disaster. At the same time, a few strong male students from the Sunlight Academy also pounced towards Qi Xianxian. Arbor waved his sleeve impatiently and a few body-securing talismans floated out. They whooshed past the crowd and split open on Yuxian and a few other Sunlight Academy students. Yuxian was instantly rooted to the spot, unable to move an inch. She lay on the ground and felt that this position was extremely humiliating. The feeling of her body being frozen made her furious. Shut up. After Arbor threw the body-securing talismans, he didn't look at Yuxian and the rest. When he turned around, Emolien had already kept the tables and chairs beside her. Let's go. Emolien smiled and rubbed the little fellow's head. Xiao Mu nodded, her small, expressionless face carrying a murderous aura. She coldly glanced at Yuxian before wordlessly following Emolien to leave. Yuxian. Instructor Chao Dan couldn't help but panic. Yuxian was Dean Yu's precious child. If anything happened to her, how could a mere instructor like him bear Dean Yu's wrath? Stop right there. Stand. Boom. A cluster of flames suddenly exploded in front of Chao Dan, causing him to immediately shut his mouth and stop yelling. The moment Prince Mo's cold gaze landed on Chao Dan, the old man was so scared that he took a few steps back. Even after Arbor's group left, Chao Dan didn't dare to make a sound. He just looked in the direction of their disappearing figures and muttered to himself, I just want to ask that lady to remove the body-securing talisman on my student. No one paid attention to Chao Dan's mutterings. Most of them were frightened by Prince Mo's cold gaze before he left, and shut their mouths tightly. Hai Ji, run. Su Liang suddenly jumped up. He didn't even have time to explain. His figure flashed in the direction Arbor's group had left in. A large group of ghosts whistled and gathered. Chao Dan's expression froze at first, then turned to joy and shock. Quickly carry Yuxian and the rest and chase after them. He remembered that when he was talking to Arbor's group just now, there were no ghosts attacking them at all. What did this mean? Perhaps that damned girl had some talisman on her that could effectively ward off ghosts. Chapter 1917. The group from Arbor and the 5 instructors from the top academies advanced at an extremely fast pace. Su Liang, Chao Dan, and the others ran with all their might. After running for about 15 minutes, they still hadn't seen the people from the top academies. With a large group of ghosts chasing after them, no one dared to relax. They could only run forward with their heads covered. Even when they heard the screams of 1 or 2 students, they could only bear the pain and abandon them at a time like this. After running for another 15 minutes, they vaguely saw the people from the top academies. Su Liang, Wang Haiji, and the others hurried over without a word. Once they got close to the top academies, Su Liang and the others abruptly realized that the ghostly wails and howls had lessened by a lot. Even their wildly thumping hearts calmed down a lot. Su Liang and Wang Haiji, who was behind him, exhaled deeply at the same time. They suddenly felt like they had survived a disaster. Chao Dan and the people from Honghu Academy and Hippo Academy also caught up. Lagging behind were the miserable students carrying Yuxian and the others. After one of the 2 students carrying Yuxian was torn apart by the ghosts, the other was so scared that he pissed his pants and ran away, abandoning Yuxian. If it weren't for one of the instructors from Sunlight Academy who made a prompt decision to grab Yuxian and leap away, Yuxian would most likely have become a delicious meal for the ghosts. When the last few people caught up, a large group of ghosts had gathered in the passageway. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws at everyone for a while, then resentfully turned and left. Chao Dan stared in shock in the direction the ghosts left. His brows furrowed, and he abruptly turned back and chased after the ghosts. When the ghosts were enraged and turned to chase after him, he quickly shrank back beside the people from the top academies. So it wasn't an illusion. The stoic-faced little girl from the top academies really did have a Dharma treasure that could effectively avoid ghosts. When Chao Dan understood this, his face instantly turned ashen with anger. However, due to Crown Prince Mo's cold and severe gaze just now, Chao Dan didn't dare to speak too much, let alone complain. He could only follow along with them in silence, his heart heavy and oppressed. When the passageway turned a corner, everyone felt that they were going downhill. Zhou Dan looked back at Arbor worriedly. "Classmate Chao, we didn't take the same path, did we?" He was about to go crazy from all the traps in the underground palace. It had probably been more than half a day since they entered the underground palace. But now, he felt as if there was no hope in sight. Arbor shook his head, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. He frowned and lowered his head slightly, as if he was thinking about something. The further down she went, the more she felt an indescribable emotion roaring at her. It was so irritating that she couldn't help but frown. What kind of strange emotion was this? Xiao Mu lowered her eyes and followed Instructor Zhou and the others step by step down the slope. Soon, a rusty old iron door appeared in front of her. Arbor's expression changed greatly. He couldn't help but raise his hand, his body trembling slightly. Her obvious change in mood immediately alerted Mo Lien, He Jetchen, Little Fatty Chi Xianxian and the others. "What is it?" "Chow Chow," everyone asked at the same time. Mo Lien quickly reached out and pulled her into her arms. When she touched her forehead, it was covered in cold sweat. Mo Lien panicked. She quickly hugged her and asked in a low voice, "Jojo, what happened?" Arbor looked up, her eyes filled with fear. Chapter 1918. Bam! Arbor kicked the door. The black, rusty iron door fell to the ground with a loud crash. Clang! A loud sound reverberated through the tunnel for a long time. Chao Dan's expression changed drastically. "You're King crazy. How could she make such a big commotion? Was she afraid that nothing would come to stop them?" Xiao Mu's eyes were instantly filled with viciousness, and she ruthlessly struck Chao Dan's chest with her palm, instantly sending him flying. He crashed heavily into the wall and spat out a mouthful of blood. "All of you, shut up." The merciless Miss Chao glared at the people from the Sunlight Academy with a pair of vicious eyes. A water spirit sword formed in her hand with a whoosh. "If you don't want to die, scram." "Chow Chow." Just as Crown Prince Mo called out, he saw the little fellow charging through the iron gate with her water spirit sword in hand and murderous aura all over her body. The moment she stepped through the iron door, a thick stench of blood mixed with a foul odor hit them in the face. They didn't expect the two to be separate cells. Mo Lien and the others couldn't help but be startled. Xiao Mu was running at the front by herself, and she kicked open the nearest prison door with a bang. The cell door turned to dust. Arbor rushed in and shouted, Fan Chioha, you scum, come out. Wake up. Hey, are you still alive?" Xiao Mu rushed to the side of a single earthen bed in the center of the room and lightly patted the dying young woman on the bed. Looking at her pale and sunken cheeks and her skinny appearance, his eyes instantly became a little blurry. "Wake up. Wake up right now. Wake up." Arbor patted the woman's face. She took out 17 to 18 bottles of medicine and poured them into the woman's mouth. You. The people from the Sunlight Academy who rushed into the cell were all shocked by her generosity. This medicine, just by smelling it, smelled fragrant. It must have cost a fortune. In the hearts of the Sunlight Academy students, Miss Chao was an extremely stingy little devil who charged them for bringing her away. Now, she was pouring medicine into the mouth of a dying person. It was a huge visual conflict. Cough, cough, cough. The weak woman on the bed twitched slightly. She coughed a few times and opened her weak eyes. In a trance, she seemed to have seen a fairy from the ninth heaven. It's okay. I'll save you, I won't die. It's okay. Arba wiped away the dirt on her face. She looked at her with a determined gaze. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I'll save you. Definitely. Cough, cough, cough. The woman was clearly at the end of her rope. She stood up and opened her mouth to speak, but her breath was so weak that she couldn't utter a single syllable. In the end, the woman didn't say anything. She looked at Arba warmly and closed her eyes. Xiao Mu was startled, and she quickly reached out to touch that girl's icy face. She repeatedly called out, "Hey, hey, hey, quickly wake up, wake up. Drink medicine, I have a lot of medicine, Jojo." Emolien flashed to his wife's side and hugged her. His palm gently patted her back as he said softly, "She's already dead." Arba shivered and hugged him back. After a long silence, she suddenly burst into tears. Chapter 1919. She's not dead, not dead, not dead. I can save her, I can save her. Arba struggled to leave. Emolien wasn't willing to let go. He hugged her tightly and comforted her in an extremely gentle voice. "Jojo, Jojo, it's okay. Look at me, Jojo." Arba's eyes were hazy with tears. She looked up at him blankly. "It's okay, Jojo. Jojo." He caressed her trembling body and comforted her softly. "I'm here. I'll protect you, Jojo." Arba looked at him and felt that the man's pitch-black eyes were incomparably deep and serene, giving her an inexplicable sense of peace. "Save them." Emolien turned his head and said to little Tai Sui and the others in a low voice. Everyone understood and hastily rushed out the door, breaking open the earth cells one by one. The scene inside was simply unbearable to look at. Every person who was moved out was either in tatters or on the verge of death. There were all kinds of torture instruments in the earth cells. Seeing these people's dismembered bodies, even the noisiest Yuexin silently shut her mouth. They were truly too miserable. Who knew what kind of tragic things they had experienced? After everyone moved the people out and lined them up in the passage, they saw the stoic-faced girl give the medicine one by one and insert needles into them one by one. Over and over again, she muttered, "I can save them, I can save them." However, those people were all beyond cure and were basically dead. Even if they were given the best medicine, they were only hanging on to their last breaths. The injuries on their bodies were truly too severe. Some of their hands and feet had already festered beyond recognition. Some had their stomachs cut open, and half of their intestines were exposed. Little brother, hang in there. Miss, wake up, miss. Uncle. Qi Xianxian watched as Arba shuttled back and forth in the crowd like a spinning top, administering medicine and calling out to them one by one. An inexplicable sourness welled up in her heart. Chow really hoped that they could live well. "All right. Don't go crazy. We have to keep moving forward." Yuexin angrily tugged at Arba's sleeve. "Anyone with a discerning eye can see that these people are at the end of their rope and can't be saved. Who says you can't save him?" Arba snapped and pushed Yuexin's hand away. He took out a cup of spiritual tea and poured it into the mouth of a young man. "You will definitely get better. You will definitely get better." "Are you stupid?" When Yuexin saw that no one stepped forward to stop her, she couldn't help but say angrily, "I don't know what you fed him. But even if you gave her elixirs, what use would it be if her body was completely dead? As a doctor, you should understand this better than anyone else." PFFF. As Yuexin's voice fell, the little brother spat out a mouthful of blood. Arba rushed over, hugged his dirty head, and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Little brother, don't die, little brother. Don't be crazy. He's already dead. Yuexin angrily shouted. Emolien, He Jetchen, Qi Xianxian and the rest glared at her. Yuexin straightened her neck and screamed, "You guys are glaring at me. Even if you kill me, I have to say it. Do you guys think it's a good thing to watch her go crazy and let her vent? Aren't you afraid that she'll go crazy and become a demon? He's dead. Yuexin didn't back down and glared back. You guys don't dare to tell the truth, but I dare to. Chapter 1920. Arbor was like an ignited firecracker. She rushed up to Yuexin and gave her a good beating. He's not dead, he's not dead, he's not dead. He's dead. Yuexin rebuked angrily. These people are hopeless. You're just wasting your energy. Even if you beat me to death today, these people won't come back to life. You said that I was dreaming. I'll return those words to you now. Xiao Mu was startled, and then her small fists slowly relaxed. She put down her hands and hugged herself into a ball, burying her small face into her arms in a somewhat sorry state. You're right. I'm useless. It's all my fault. I'm useless. It's my fault. It's all my fault. She cried like a child, curling herself into a shrimp ball. Her voice was choked with sobs. Her shoulders drooped and trembled slightly. Her heart was in a mess. She was indeed useless. It was only now that she realized that this hell on earth was the place where Fan Chioha had imprisoned her. If she had known about this place earlier, would she have been able to save them? Yuexin was stunned. She stretched out her leg and kicked her lightly. Get up. Where's the smugness you had when you called me a retard? Where's the arrogance you had when you threw Mentor Chow out? Arbor hugged her body and ignored her. She wished she could bury her head in the ground. Seeing her blaming herself, Emolien's heart ached. He quickly walked up to her and pulled her into his arms. He glared at Yuexin angrily. Although this woman's words were reasonable, but his heart ached. Couldn't she use a gentler method to enlighten his Jojo? Don't be afraid, Jojo. Don't be afraid. Emolien patted her body and murmured softly, the dead are gone. Everything will pass. What we need to do is figure out how to ferret out the murderers behind the scenes and make them pay the price they deserve. These bastards had caused his Jojo to break down. No matter what, once he found them, he would tear them into pieces and burn their bones to ashes. There's a child here. Duanmu Qing suddenly walked over with quick steps. In his arms was a child who was as thin as a little monkey. Emolien loosened her grip slightly. She took the child from Duanmu Qing's arms and handed him to Jojo. Arbor hurriedly wiped away his tears and began to treat her wounds. He also gave her 2 or 3 mouthfuls of the nutrient solution to recuperate her body. Only then did he raise his head and say, "He can be saved." This child must have been brought in not too long ago. Although he was so skinny that he was almost out of shape, at least his hands and feet were in good condition, and his stomach was not cut open. All right, after we get out, we'll find a good family for this child. He'll definitely live a healthy and happy life. Prince Emo nodded. Xiao Mu nodded and reflexively hugged this child who was as thin as firewood tightly. Emolien looked up and said, "The smell here is not good. Let's go out and rest for a while." No one objected. Because they had witnessed such a tragedy, everyone moved forward quietly. They didn't fight with each other anymore. One of the instructors sighed and said, "Life is really fragile. In limited time, it was better to do more meaningful things." After the group left, Arbor turned to look at the prison that was emitting a faint purple light. He knew that Emolien had burned the corpses. The 6th watch ended. Mobile QQ, News, Reading, My, Activity Center, Creation God 101, Vote for me, Z Yunchi. Let's do something big. This week's Creation 101 has more than 80 million votes. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.